Grand rising, grand afternoon, grand evening, grand rest wherever you are, beloveds, whenever you tune in. Oh, this is day 6 of this fun little, well, fun for me. You can all, of course, speak for yourselves upon your own free will. Little mini series, 6 steps towards joy with others. Although this is not my first time visiting this book, this time I feel as though I've experienced some sort of growth spurt, so to speak, beginning with 6 steps towards joy a couple of weeks ago, and then beginning last week with 6 steps towards joy with others. Just know that every time that I share what I would consider somewhat of like an exercise, I participate with full integrity as well with these steps. I check myself at the door, so to speak, a lot more. That's for certain. And I'm actually kind of sad to be wrapping this up today, but I'm not going to get stuck there. I'm most certainly a bit more humbled in the last couple of weeks. Which brings us to step number 6 in 6 steps towards joy with others. Beautifully enough, it is humility. Humility is knowing your true place in relation to the universe and the environment around you. It is knowing that you are not above or below others, and that all beings and things are part of God, and therefore all should always be treated with love, honor, kindness, respect, mutuality, allowance, responsibility, and reverence. I don't know about you guys, but I'm all in to ride that wave. And the one and only inquiry with today's step number 6, being humility, is for us to ask ourselves. And this may even to an extent be a beneficial daily check-in. And yes, I'm calling myself out on this one as well. As the inquiry goes as such, do I act with humility? 444 on the timer. Synchronicities. With protection in place, we ask ourselves, what even is the etymology of humility? So, interestingly enough, the timing of humility and this card is going to seem a bit polarizing. So I'm going to begin with 444. Protection. Interesting. That glare. There we go. I'll just have to do this. Cast a shadow. This is your time to take confidence in all that you pursue. But I'm going to stop there for a moment, because part of the etymology of humility is freedom from pride or arrogance. So it approaches openness and broad-mindedness, where with divine protection in place, we are guarded from being imposing on another more and more. Having, excuse me, having a good relationship with ourselves, knowing ourselves, is our number one mission in this life. And with knowing the Most High, we have the ability to form a more accurate opinion of ourselves. But also, I'm hearing the word debonair. Or not debonair, demure. Perhaps both are relevant somehow. But an openness, the freedom through the knowing of this, allowing a certain level of non-imposing openness. Thank you, Spirit. Beautiful. Beautiful. So, I'm excited about embracing humility that much more. The divine universe is working through you and protecting you. Time has come to allow all the doors of opportunity to welcome you with open arms. And this affirmation states, I feel the loving care of the divine protecting me. I allow myself to pursue growth and opportunity. And there is a certain level of broad, not a specific level, but some level of broad-mindedness that is like that little nudge towards more opportunities. There's also a certain level of appreciation for ourselves. That is beneficial. The more reverence we give to our practices, our virtues, the more we pump those spiritual muscles, and also at the same time, as we become spiritual warriors, we are also becoming more gentle on ourselves and others. All right. It's been placed on my heart to now go into the Starseed Oracle for 3 cards. Anything I'm sure that could come out could be a supportive and guiding light in terms of humility. I'm very particular about the decks that I have. And usually I'm pretty on guard with them and keep them protected. But at this time, Oracle of Visions is in the Salt Vault to be cleansed. So we're going to be leaning more into the teachable moments of these other, what I like to call, flashcards. As a student teacher, you don't have to be religious or spiritual to recognize insight, good insight, virtuous insight, and teachable moments. All right, here we go. We're going to do a split right about here. Lost lands. Soul memories and gifts. You've done this before. Interesting. So it's like saying that, you know, practicing humility, having appreciation for our talents, skills, and virtues is not like a one and done, I sat with it one time kind of moment. To be humble. But also on the more rough around the edges side of things. Every single one of us have at some time been humbled through experiences. To have appreciation, but also a modest view of one's value. Which leads me to being willing to begin again with that beginner's mind. To be open to someone else's experience holding as much value as yours. To accept that none of us have ever been, nor shall we ever be, better, more relevant, or more chosen than another. Something tells me that this isn't our first rodeo for any of us. This is not our first lap around the fishbowl. So, to love ourselves up till a certain bending point that occurs, with an imposing type of mentality. So, another question you might ask yourself, upon your own free will, of course, is if you can recall a time where you may have been somehow unconsciously imposing on another. It's a tough question to ask ourselves. You're not required to openly share your response to these questions, beloveds. Perhaps during that next self-check-in, we can practice sitting with that for a moment. Lost lands. I will share enough of what I have been informed of in the astrals anyways, that some of these, what we kind of ignorantly perceive as all these different past lives, but are really other selves existing simultaneously in other dimensions, of just being, okay? I have experienced inner earth, perceivable lifetimes, as well as being able to recall some, not all, of my galactic lineage. And also that little bit of a tinge of heartbreak during our awakening and facing our truth, facing the truth. We realize that a very small percentage of humanity is even awakening. So small, it's just like almost unfathomable. Just because when we begin to awaken, sometimes there's this brief, like, grandiose type of, discovery of another one of ourselves, even. Because anything that we see in others is a reflection of what we think of ourselves, what we see in ourselves, and sometimes what we don't see. What's perceivably lost. Soul memories and gifts. Some of them are a little crunchy and crispy. At this time, though, as souls, many of us have experienced ancient eras right here on this planet that were much more advanced than where we are today. As we begin to remember these times, the rememberings and gifts can come flooding back, which, again, I'm calling myself out here, it makes us look a little wackadoodle-doo. Oh, little lady who, wackadoodle-doo. Oh, it does, but you know what? We're not crazy. And we have to remind ourselves that sometimes it's okay to just allow others to be wrong about us. We need the wisdom of the ancients to survive as a species. And we're being called to connect with this lost wisdom of our own soul. And I'm hearing that partially because of these necessary self-check-ins of our own. It's been placed on my heart that if you're tuning in here at any time, from anywhere, you also have at some time had it placed on your heart to consider steps towards joy, like what I have been sharing for the last couple of weeks. Because I don't support hoarding information of value, codes, seed codes, light codes, steps towards joy. How the heck can you be bothered by that? You know? And there is almost like this certain joy and privilege of even experiencing awakening and rediscovering these lost lands. so to speak. However, we're being called to step into this new path. There's something that we're meant to give birth to bring to life. That we know is going to be counterintuitive to some of the harsher truths of where we are and what's happening, what's going on between the 3 and 5D. Let's be frank. It hasn't always been a joyride. Challenges and obstacles are all part of the soul contract. And now I'm hearing all the more wiser we become with these intuitive hits. But something's been holding you back, feeling unprepared. We're being called to consider that we've done this before. We can do it again. Perhaps your soul has wisdom beyond what your lifespan can imagine. Perhaps the intuitive hits and ideas you're receiving are divinely guided. Perhaps you've been preparing for this all along. I've been guided to say. When we realize that we do not live on a linear timeline, we realize that these lost lands, so to speak, are not truly lost at all, as they still very much so exist somewhere else, in a different dimension. But also, they're encrypted in our DNA. The wisdom of not lost, but yet to be rediscovered lands like Lemuria, Atlantis, Avalon. They all exist within you. It's time for us to delve deeper into the intelligence of our soul, unlocking these seeds. Lessons learned, lessons learned, lessons learned. We have learned from the obstacles and hardships and suffering. Lessons learned, lessons integrated. And by that integration, we unlock these seed codes. And there is this activation. Place your hand on the portal of your heart and whisper the following, upon your own free will, of course. I unlock any forgotten wisdom and soul gifts from, we'll just say, lifetimes on other timelines. We'll say that again for good measure. I unlock any forgotten wisdom and soul gifts from lifetimes on other timelines. One more time to seal the deal. I unlock any forgotten wisdom and soul gifts from lifetimes on other timelines. So it is, so it is, so it is. Interesting. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Courageous Peony. Feeling guided to bring that in as our next teachable moment. All of this pertaining to humility in some kind of way. The multifaceted, unique nature. Let yourself be seen. Now I'm hearing coming out of the dark. See, her face is already in the light. And now that song by Gloria Estefan is joyfully playing in my head. The Courageous Peony. Beloveds, let yourself be seen. Courageous peonies. Flowers don't open and close according to who walks by. They embrace all of what they are and show it to the world around them. And this is why you'll often hear me saying to embrace every part of yourself, from the seed to the rose hip. They're just using different types of flowers as analogies, and I'm all in with that. Yes. And as the story goes, the peony doesn't try to compete with the cherry blossom. And the cherry blossom doesn't try to compete with the tulip. They own what they are and trust the timing of their true nature. And we are being called to continue to do the same. Humility is just that, owning who we are now, not in the past, not in the future, who we are now. Also, opening ourselves up more to being seen, but also holding tightly to our growth, our self-development, our virtues. Higher virtues, as we have been uncovering and revealing our soul's greatest gifts without wavering. You want to know why we've been doing it without wavering? Because when we're not being arrogant and prideful, and we're focused on other areas of development, that ego becomes more underdeveloped, if you know what I mean. And so these gifts become more evident without wavering, because we're forging on as though those experiences, obstacles, we'll throw in a little bit of a fire reference, because forging cannot be done without fire. But it's not forced. It's not something that we've obsessed over. It's something that has been, much like the peony, which is a rose. It's in the rose family. Unfolding without, like the rose, just it unfolds without paying it any mind to the fact that it's a rose. And the only reason that it's a fact that it's a rose is because we said so, not because the rose said so. The rose is always in its most natural state of being. It doesn't have an ego. It just unfolds. And the first unfolding isn't even what occurs in the blossoming stage. First, we have to really pump those spiritual muscles to crack open that seed. In the very beginning stage, the germination stage, which can only be done in the dark, metaphorically speaking, using, well, comprehensive analogies. To own our uniqueness without apology, but also without arrogance. There it is. Thank you, Spirit. Yes. There's a flower on this planet that holds the same qualities that your soul is readying itself to express. Let it inform you. Yes. You may have been taught that it's safer to keep your light hidden and your voice small, to hide behind the bushes instead of growing tall. The courageous peony is here to remind you that it's safe to embody all of who you truly are. It's safe to share your voice and let yourself be seen. At first it may feel uncomfortable and you may be afraid of what others think, but with each passing day it does become easier. Little by little, you realize that it draws in those who are meant for you, and experiences you've been longing for arrive at your feet. And see, this is where I mentioned earlier that there may, at first glance, seem to be a little bit of counterintuitiveness between the etymology of humility and wanting to be seen. You can still put yourself out there, but also embrace minimalism, especially in terms of how, again, we sometimes can unconsciously over-impress our beliefs, our views onto others. The opposite of humility. But don't be bothered. Don't be angry with yourself. Be gentle. Every single one of us have been on board with allowing our ego to take it to the next level from time to time. Until it doesn't. It's safe to share your voice. Beautiful. It's part of that double mission. To know thyself and embrace the God spark within. Doing what lights us up in a virtuous manner. And in turn, it lights up the world. Worlds even. The physical and the internal. With this card is an inquiry. How are you being called to allow yourself to be more visible and seen in the world at this time? And now we're going to draw this message to a close with one more card from the Starseed Oracle. Star family. See, now you have to put yourself out there to some degree, telepathically, astrally, or otherwise, to know your soul, your star family. Notice that the name of this channel is Soul Stars of the Violet Flame. Which is more representative of galactic lineage, not necessarily I don't do saint worshiping. I'll just put it that way. Okay. Do as thine will and harm none, but I opt out of saint worshiping. Moving along, we are still part of a team of souls, and it's time to brace yourselves. I'm going to zoom in. It's time to call in your support, beloveds. And this is why being in a season of receiving has been going on for so long. Procrastinating on this. Guilty. Until we realize that guilt is low vibe, low frequency, low energy, low level spirit. And we are here to rise and shine above it. Above that energy, frequency, and vibration, of course. Not to think of ourselves as above others and lose sight of humility. But it's time. It really is time. You're never alone. Ever, 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 ever. It's time to call in your star family, beloveds. Whenever you hear this, it's your time to call in your star family, your support, your own spirit council, I said soul to speak. When it was 4444 on the timer. So yeah, we're drawing that card today. I showed it earlier in the video. Strong fours coming in for us because they're for us. Dad joke. Anyways, moving along. Here we have Star Family. So, we were each a part of a soul cluster, a gathering of souls who broke away from one another to experience themselves individually. Those who are part of your soul cluster are part of your star family. Your star family are those souls who are cut from a similar cosmic cloth. You haven't just experienced lifetimes together. Your souls were once actually one. It's very common for star family members to incarnate at similar times and to work with anchoring a similar frequency of light and to cross paths with each other. You know that someone's part of your star family when you feel like you know and remember them from the moment you meet. And some of you that I have encountered, we'll just say through social media somehow, which I never thought would ever happen because I used to have a very negative outlook on social media until I realized the benefits of using it in a more virtuous manner can be absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with it. It's a tool that we can utilize either for destruction, as a tool of destruction, or a tool of divinity, a tool of the divine, of being a 3D to 5D at this time representation of the divine. Because we know instantly, we feel instant familiarity, and sometimes even instant comfort. We feel like we know one another and remember each other. Somehow, some way. And we feel more like ourselves. Authentic with them, with each other, than with anyone else. Sometimes feeling like looking in the mirror. Because in a way we are. Going out of our way even, for those in our star family, instinctively knowing it's part of our path. And when a star family member transitions, we feel it very deeply, regardless of how long we've known them. A certain soul mourning or soul breaking occurs. Think about the people in your life. Who do you feel is part of your star family? It's likely that you've met someone who is part of your star family, or you're about to, upon hearing this message. Who do you think is from the same star family as you? And how can you call upon them for support? Four, 9, 4, 9. This angel number is going to be our closing message, beloveds. Yes. More fours. Of course. Here we go. A sign that we are very fortunate during this time. As our guides are advising that now is an excellent time for us to let go of certain situations that have already ran their course in our lives. And it may be hard for us, but they remind us that closing this door will open another. So this number is pertaining to major occurrences which have already occurred. Our guides are already preparing us for a new assignment as soon as we close the doors on a certain situation. And only you are going to know what that means to you, beloveds. When one door closes, another one opens. And this is not me just repeating some spiritual quote. It's part of the undertaking, but also the power instilled in 4949. Because it's signifying that we have healed enough from these pains and sorrows. And it's also part of the symbolism of our Creator, the one and only that helps open righteous paths for us while we're still here. Current circumstances may have created a bit of a shake-up, a bit of a core shake-up even. But these experiences have led us towards the path of seeking divine grace and evidence of more growth in terms of spiritual growth and development. This is so crucial at this time for us, beloveds. This is where this is so relevant to humility. To no longer hold on to things that have zero meaning. Otherwise, it would jeopardize our spiritual advancement. Trust that our Creator will set things right for us as we're finding spiritual growth, the courage to fully embrace our life purpose and soul mission. Something about long lost friends, or meeting someone who feels like a long lost friend. It's going to be very relevant, extremely relevant this week. as well as fours. Seeing a lot of fours. Some of you may have already been seeing a lot of fours. But this is year 9, and we are also looking at the number 9. All right? But first, with fours, this is a solid foundation built with the support called in. Our star family protecting us as we would do the same and do, shall, and will do the same. Coming together, securing our future by realizing our true potential. We can apply it to everything that we do. Number 4 is also speaking on God-given blessings and good fortune. On to number 9. Beautiful. The number of spiritual workers. Us doing what we do now, even without a kickback. Signifying our inner strength and inner wisdom. It's not something that we do for clout. Although it does take courage. Especially when it's authentic and sincere. And letting go of the pain that we have harbored in our hearts also requires strength. An inner wisdom that so few will ever understand in this lifetime. Bringing the most valuable lessons into the now as integrations regarding peace, happiness, and the inner work that is equally, even if not more, exhausting. Than what would be considered manual labor. And because there's a double sequence here, it's also amplified. Which means that we are way closer to achieving yet another W in the bag in terms of our soul's growth. This is not a time for anyone listening to be getting caught up in that low-level spirit of self-doubt pertaining to your capabilities, because you're already on the right path. Recognize a new beginning that is going to pave the way for so much more. by letting go of the negativity. Let's do this. Yes. 1 hour in, we are lighting some sage. 1 and 7s. 7-11 is very relevant at this time and representing good fortune. Isn't that something? Let's bring in the sage for just a moment. Yes. Clearing out the negative voltage for us together, but also my eyes, so that I may see what source needs me to see. My ears, so that I may hear what source needs me to hear. My heart, so that my heart center may continue to expand. Much like the golden nuggets of wisdom available in the etymology of humility. My hair, although my crown is covered already, as it is a harbinger of that encrypted ancient DNA. My earthly and galactic lineage, and of course my feet, so that I may always walk with reverence to God, guides, higher selves, and others, as well as this planet. Seeing all as sacred. Being a bit of a lightfoot as we become lighter, we also walk with more grace and gentleness. So it is, so it is, so it is. I don't usually do any kind of like invocation at the end, but it is a beautiful way to draw this last day of this mini series, 6 Steps Towards Joy with Others, touching on humility. To know our true place in relation to the universe and the environment around us, it is knowing that we are not above or below others, and that all beings and things are part of God, and therefore all should always be treated with love, honor, kindness, respect, mutuality, allowance, responsibility, and reverence. Thank you so very much, beloved multiversal soul. Familia, for tuning in. If you made it this far, you are a rock star. With much gratitude and appreciation. Happy Tuesday and brightest blessings.